Hi, Megane.
Hello.
We are meeting after 5 years and so many things have happened. You are now a yoga instructor. When did that happen?
In 2016, I went to Rishikesh for 1 month and I decided to certify in Ashtanga yoga. I started yoga out of a book. I didn't have anything to do in the winter. I said, oh, why I'm not going to India to do a yoga teacher training? So I did, and I spent 1 month there, and it was life-changing experience, really.
What was the changing thing that you were mentioning?
First of all, when you travel, and you travel to places that are very different from your culture, you know, your senses, they're always looking for something that you know. And in India, nothing was familiar to what I know. So it was a discovery every day of all the senses, the color, the facial expression of people, the food, the spirituality, everything was very different. And it changed me in a way that to be very mindful of what is happening and looking at life differently. And also yoga helped very much to change my vision of life.
Hello everyone, I'm Reena Augustine from Community Impact. In life, you meet people who are there for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. I had the opportunity to meet Megane in 2019 when I was doing my Europe trip. The reason I was doing my Europe trip was because I thought my life was ending. And when I was lying down in the bed, not able to go to my own event that I organized, that's when I decided life is so short. I need to do something. I booked my Europe trip. Every experience is very important, and getting the right guide is also important in every tour you do. And I was blessed to meet this beautiful, gorgeous tour guide, Megane. Hi, Megane.
Hello.
We are meeting after 5 years.
Yes.
And so many things have happened. You are now a yoga instructor.
Yes.
When did that happen?
Actually, in 2016. So I went to Rishikesh for 1 month and I decided to certify in Ashtanga yoga. Actually, it's very funny because I started yoga out of a book. I had a lot of back pain and I decided, okay, I'm gonna try, yoga for a little while. And I started for a few months. And because I didn't have anything to do in the winter, I said, oh, why I'm not going to India to do a yoga teacher training? So I did, and I spent 1 month there, and it was life-changing experience, really.
Rishikesh.
Yes.
Isn't it a beautiful place?
It's beautiful. It's amazing. Yeah.
I had the opportunity to go 2 years ago for my birthday, and the water was cold. It was December time, and the vibe was so different.
Yeah.
What was the changing thing that you were mentioning?
It is, first of all, when you travel, and you travel to places that are very different from your culture, you know, your senses, they're always looking for something that you know. So your eyes, they will look for something familiar. The taste is gonna try to find something familiar. And in India, nothing was familiar to what I know. So it was a discovery every day of all the senses, the color, the facial expression of people, the food, the spirituality, everything was very different. And it changed me in a way that, to be very mindful of what is happening and looking at life differently. And also yoga helped very much to change my vision of life.
Wow, I'll come to the yoga part later. Now I want to tell you something that I learned, okay, in Australia. Everybody's like, oh, French are so rude, French are so rude. I was like, I didn't think of it. I come to the trip, the Europe trip, the only French girl in my lifetime I meet is you. And you are the most amazing and happy-go-lucky girl. So why do you think the perception of French people are like that in the other part of the world?
Okay, I think I'm going to tell you what I tell my clients when I take them in Paris. I think that most of the people, they have experience with French people in Paris, because Paris is the first visited city in the world. So we have a lot of tourists, and everyone that is coming to France always goes to Paris. Remember how excited you were?
I was jumping around.
So everyone wants to go to Paris. The problem is European capital, they are very small, and there is a lot of people, and it's the case for Paris. It is one of the most crowded city that we have here in Europe. So the people, they're already very stressed, and you know, they use the metro to go to work. It is packed of people. They don't have any sun. Remember, I come from the south, so for us it's very different, and they're very stressed. So that's the first thing. They come across very rude because they're always in a hurry and always very stressed. And then the second thing, I think, which is part of the French culture, is that the French culture is always going to be very straightforward. If they want to say no, they will not go like, oh, I'm sorry, and try to, you know, kind of
beat around the bush. Yeah.
Exactly. They will say no, and that's it.
Yes, that's right. And people think it's rude. No, they're not wasting your time, not wasting my time. They're like, no, bye-bye. Okay. Yeah.
So I think that's why we come across as being rude as well, is because we're not afraid to say no. If there is something that we don't want to do, we say no. And you see it a lot, for example, in Parisian cafe. The waiters, they're at work, but sometimes if they don't want to do something, they'll just say no and walk away.
Oh, wow, I'm glad I didn't have that experience. Otherwise, I wouldn't come to France back again. Everybody was nice. We had the great time. So I'm glad I got the answer to that question, because everybody back home, they say that, you know, and this morning I was speaking to somebody and they're like, what are you doing in France? You know how people are rude? I said, oh my gosh, they have to travel to the south of France to know that, no, it's not true. You know, I have not faced a single person, anything bad here. Everybody's positive, everybody's happy. Yes, you need to learn a bit of French. And I cannot speak French, and the people in Carrefour gym, they try to learn English and speak to me. They're so amazing. You know, it's the way, if you, that's why I wanted to do the podcast with you, because you're a traveler. Your brain is open. So your way of thinking is so different to many people.
Yes.
The same question that I asked you, everybody else has answered me in a different way. You know? Where all have you traveled, Miss Megane?
How?
Where all have you traveled?
Oh.
Okay, where have you not traveled?
Okay, I have not traveled to Africa. And yeah, I did most of European countries. I did a lot of backpacking alone in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
I traveled alone 1 year in Australia, you remember. Then I worked and I lived in Central America, so Mexico, Guatemala, Belize. I worked as a tour guide there as well.
Wow.
I stayed 3 months in the States, and then I did some little islands in the Caribbean, in the Mediterranean, in the middle of the Atlantic. So I traveled alone basically for 15 years. It's been 15 years, and I just got an apartment this year. I didn't stop for 15 years going, you know, 6 months there, 3 months there.
Wow. Yeah. Don't you think that's the way people should live?
Yes. Okay. Yes and no. Okay. Because sometimes, you know, when it's intensive travel, then you come to miss certain things, like simple things in life, such as your family, your friends, cooking. Cooking is something that when I'm traveling for many months, I'm thinking, oh, I wish I could be in my kitchen just cutting a tomato and just eating something very simple. But yes, I think people should travel a lot, because it's opening your brain, it's opening your perspective. Your perspective of life is very interesting, because if you stay only with people that have the same perspective as you will only confirm what you already know. If you start traveling and you meet people that have a completely different perspective, you don't have to agree with them, but at least it will make you question your own perspective, and you will learn from these people, and you will learn so many things that your brain is like a parachute. It's opening, and you're like, oh, okay, you can live differently, you can think differently, and that is very important, and that's why I think everyone should travel. Yeah.
So Avignon is the place you were born and brought up?
Near Avignon. I say Avignon because the people, they don't know the village. Okay. I come from a village that is 1,500 people. So it's very small, and it's 50 kilometers away from Avignon. It's in the middle of the lavenders and the vineyards. It's literally in the middle of nowhere, so it's very small.
Okay, so people, the tourists come there because there's lavenders?
There is, yeah, we have a lot of people that come during the lavender season, and we have a lot of people that come to Avignon. Usually there is a lot of Americans, there is a lot of tours that start in Paris, then they go through Lyon, and then they go down to Avignon, Marseille, and will end up in Nice, and they will visit a little bit of Provence. But Provence is, I think, is one of the places in France that everyone should go at least once. Of course you have to see Paris, but of course you have to see Provence and to see how people live, because they live very differently. You know, we call it like the slow pace,
Yeah.
and Provence is very similar to Tuscany. The way of life of taking the pace very easily and going slow and
Laid back.
yes, very laid back.
Okay. You know, if I didn't come to south of France, I wouldn't know how beautiful the European part
Yes.
is. The only thing that when I think of Europe, I see the snow in Switzerland, you know, and I come to south of France and I see the sun,
Yes.
which I never thought I'll see in Europe. Beautiful.
Yes.
South of France is beautiful. The small villages I went to is amazing. Megane, I would like to ask you something about Australia, because now my Australian audience would like to know your journey 1 year in Australia. What makes Australia look different than the rest of the world?
Okay, so I think that Australia is, first of all, is isolated. So, you know, it's not like in Europe where you can travel, you drive 2 hours and you're in Italy, you drive 3 hours, you're in Spain, and you see a different culture. So it's very isolated from the rest of the world, and it's a chance because they developed a culture that is really proper to itself. And I thought that the Australian, like any other island, because it's still, you know, a very big island, they're always so friendly, very open-minded and very welcoming. They have a lot of different diaspora, different nationality. They're very welcoming, and when I was there, everyone was helping me. Everyone, you know, was always very friendly. And during my year in Australia, I went there and I had 1 year visa. I had only 1,000 euro in my bank account. I didn't speak any English and I had no plan. And I arrived there and I was very scared. I was only 20 years old at the time, and everyone was helping me. Oh, I know you can get a job there, and I'll give you the number of my friend, and someone has a room and you can rent a room. And for 1 year, I went over from Brisbane to Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth. I did many things in Australia, and every person I met helped me. It was, yeah.
I love it. Isn't it true?
Yeah.
It's so true. Like everywhere in Australia is beautiful.
Yes, and you have a lot of different landscape. You can go from desert to the rainforest, and then you have the beautiful ocean. You have the beach that is kilometers and kilometers long. Coming from the south of France, I never seen that before, because you see we have small Calanque,
Yeah.
and then suddenly I'm on a beach in Australia and it's like 25 kilometers long. And the nature is what makes Australia so special, because everyone lives on the coast, but then if you start to go deeper, the nature is untouched. You have like the wild animals and the beautiful mountains, and it's untouched. Here in Europe it's a little bit more difficult because it's older, so we have a lot, which is still beautiful, but we have a lot of buildings, old buildings, and everywhere you can see the human construction and the human past. When you go in Australia and you drive 2 or 3 hours away from the coast, you don't feel like there is any human. You feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, just surrounded with the wildlife. And this is what I love about Australia.
Would you live there?
I wanted to live there, but then I realized that it's far away. And if I want to, you know, to see my family, and so that's why I came back. But I
It's
had
so
that
far away.
hesitation.
Yeah. Everybody I meet, they're like, oh my God, Australia is too far. It's too
Yes.
far. You know, being in the migration industry for a very long time, I met so many people from different part of the world come to Australia on a visitor's visa, working holiday visa.
And stay.
90% of them stay,
Yes.
and the 10% are the French who come back. And I was wondering, why is this happening?
2 reasons, the wine and the cheese.
Absolutely. You are not wrong. The lifestyle. Yes, Australia has amazing lifestyle, but here food is great, wine is great, cheese is great, everything is perfect. You can just go like the south of France I'm talking about. You can see the beach,
Yeah.
you can go to the mountains, you can go to the snow. And you can see the beautiful villages that I see in the Hollywood movies, and I'm like, oh my God, this is heaven. And now I'm very satisfied to know that the reason why people don't live in Australia, because it used to make me so curious. You don't want to live in Australia? What is wrong with you?
I would have, if it was close from home.
Yeah.
It had everything that I was looking for, the beautiful weather, nice people. The economy is also very great to work in Australia, but then, you know, if I wanted to see my parents and I had to wait 1 full year to see them, I thought, okay, Australia or family, and then I came back for the family.
Wow. And what year was it? When did you go?
This was one of my first travel on my own. It was 2011, 2012.
Wow.
Yeah.
Long
I was
time
20.
Back. Long time back. Talking about the Lumya concept, okay? You started your life as a tour guide, and now you have started your own Lumya concept.
Yes.
Please talk through about it.
So I decided to open Lumya Concept because I traveled, as I was telling you, alone for many years, and it changed me so much. I learned so many things, you know, going from country to country and also meeting different people, and I wanted to share that with people. I wanted to, during pandemic, right before pandemic, I was working in Mexico as a tour guide. Then pandemic hit and I had to come back to France. When I came back to France, because I was only working in the tourism industry and my life was basically traveling, I had to pause and think, okay, what do I do now? It was a very long year because, you know, I had to think through, and finally it was 10 years of traveling on my own, and after 10 years I had to stop and, you know, digest all the travels, and I thought, okay, I would like to share it with people, and I would like to take people on a journey, but not just like, let's say, mass tourism, to take them somewhere, take a picture, be happy and then go home, but to travel somewhere and to try to change people's perspective and to try to learn something from the place where they visit. And this is how I started to find the concept of Lumya Concept, which is transformative travel.
Give me an example, because I saw some of your ads, and let's give one example. If you want to take a family, husband, wife, and one child, what would you design for them?
Okay, so we have a program that is called Family Bonding, and Family Bonding is to go in another country and to see how other people are living as a family. What is the concept? And very interesting one is to go to India, for example. The top destination would be India, Mongolia and Morocco. You go and you will live with a family. Of course, you have someone that will help you, you know, to translate. And you see how do they live as a family? What is the interaction between the people? How do they show respect to the elders? How do you give time to the younger one? How do you educate, etc.? You'll live with them for 1 week or 2 weeks, and you will learn how this culture is seeing family to strengthen your bond with your own family, so you can come back home with a different perspective of the family. So you see, it's all about the perspective and changing the perspective through traveling.
Oh my gosh. So you organize that?
Yes.
So it's India, Morocco and Mongolia.
And Mongolia.
And you've been there,
Yes.
you've been to Mongolia and Morocco too?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's, you know, we have many programs like this, and the goal is always to work on one thematic. So I have different thematic, for example, digital detox for the people that want to unplug and go to in a little cabin, for example, in the middle of the wood. Remember when we went to Slovenia?
Yes.
So you can rent a little cabin in the middle of the wood and unplug completely. Someone is going to come to bring you food, and you have yoga teaching, meditation, just to unplug yourself from the world for a little while. And I'm also organizing some retreats. So I'm organizing some in south of France. And in south of France, the thematic is the slow living. So the slow living, how to let go of the things of your day-to-day life and learn how to take things very slowly, which we do in south of France.
I know. You guys take time to enjoy your coffee, eat your pan of chocolate.
Exactly.
No rush. Even the waiters and waitresses are so cool and relaxed. I love it. I love it. Okay. Advice for couple. What would you do for couples?
So for couples, we have what we call intimate connection. And intimate connection, it's a program that I have with an Italian couple in Tuscany. And you will go there and basically you're learning how to, in French we say raviver la flamme, to put back the flame in the couple, doing some exercise together. So this goes with the Tantra yoga.
Okay, so you organize this all. Your travel life has actually opened your mind and given you so many ideas. So how long has been Lumya Concept going on for now?
1 year.
1 year?
Yes.
So you are dedicated fully to Lumya Concept, or
Yes.
you're doing something else too?
I'm also freelance in tour guiding, so I'm still running some tours for American tour operator, and then I'm also running tours for myself.
Okay. You lived in America for 3 months.
Yes,
Where about?
in Wisconsin.
Okay.
Everyone is asking me why Wisconsin?
Yeah, why?
Because of it was a school project, so I had to do a work placement, and I was working in a bank. It was very serious, and so that's why they sent me to Wisconsin.
Okay. Not to Vegas and New York to do the dance parties. All right.
No.
Thank you for talking about Australia. Now, you have traveled to India, right? As you said, there's so much of feelings. What you feel here in your country, south of France, is totally different in India. The feelings that you developed and you learned, give me an example.
In India? So in India, what I really loved about the culture is that everything is a ritual. You wake up in the morning. I remember, for example, a friend of mine, he was telling me, I wake up in the morning, first thing I'm doing is I'm touching the ground to touch the Mother Earth, and then I'm doing this.
Yes.
Even the simple thing like waking up is a ritual, and it's helping you to go through your life much happier, because you do everything with consciousness. You know, you will eat your food, and for example, the yoga teacher, he was telling us to imagine the good energy that is coming from the food, and so you're conscious in everything that you're doing. So that is the most life-changing thing that I've seen in India.
Wow, that's so true. Like everything people do in India, there's a ritual to it. To drinking water, we sit down and drink water. We don't stand and drink water. It's just like, we thought it's normal, but it's not. It's kind of a ritual.
And I think also that in India, people are very connected to nature. Everyone is so connected to nature. I remember seeing trees, you know, with
Threads.
like with colors. And I was thinking, how beautiful is this? You know, to honor the nature like this, and we don't do this in Europe. And the connection, you know, that the cow, for example, is holy, and you have all these animals in the middle of the street, and everything, every human being, the nature and the animals, everyone works in cohesion somehow.
That's correct. Oh my
You
God.
have the cars everywhere.
We go past. No, that's
But
true.
everything clicked together because there is this connection with nature, and I think it's amazing.
It's a lovely way to
Yes.
see it that way, you know, rather than saying that, oh, what a chaotic place it is.
No, I love it. I love it.
Wow. Spiritual path. You are a yoga instructor. Does yoga and food have any connection?
Yoga and food? Yeah. So you heard probably your body is a temple. So when you start doing yoga and you start taking care of your body, you really want that the food that you're putting inside your body that will nurture you healthily, and not, you know, you kind of, it's not even a diet, but you kind of drift away from all the junk food, and because you're not interested anymore, not because you're restraining yourself, but because you respect yourself by doing yoga and having this connection with your body, that you're not even interested in that kind of food anymore. So it is really connected.
Have
I
you
think.
changed anything in your diet?
I became vegetarian.
Shocking. I didn't want to ask you, you know, because I was like, if she says no, it's contradicting. So you're a vegetarian?
Yes.
And when did that happen?
2016.
So when we traveled together, you did not eat any meat?
No.
Oh my gosh. So it's almost 8 years?
Yes.
No. Yeah, 8 years now. And what changes do you feel?
sometimes I feel like eating meat, to be honest, but I think it's because part of the culture.
Yeah.
You know, the French culture, when you do barbecue with your family.
It's a big meat-eating culture.
It's a very big meat-eating culture, and I'm like, okay, but I don't feel any different. The only thing is respecting the nature and respecting the animals, which is more important than just the taste, even if sometimes, to be honest, I'm a little bit like this when I smell.
Do you think you would be a vegan? No,
vegan.
Who's gonna resist the cheese here?
Yes, I was gonna say, what normal French can be vegan?
I'm waiting for the raclette. I want to eat the raclette. You know, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the best.
Do you like raclette?
Darling, when I was in Switzerland,
we went,
true. And you introduced me to it. So I had the raclette, and I'm like, I want to eat raclette because, and everybody's like, oh, it'll be during the winter season. I'm like, okay, winter season is coming. So, Megane, very excited about your Lumya concept. If there's 3 things that you would like to advise our audience in anything in your life, what would that be?
Okay. First thing is, I kept talking about the perspective, and I think that people need to understand, and it's very, very important, that when you change your perspective, you completely change your life. If you switch, it's like having, you know, eyes like this, and if you decide to look just a little bit different, it's going to change your whole life. So it is very important to change the perspective, and you can do that by hanging out with people that are different. You can do it with traveling, you can do it with books. It doesn't have to be something very big, but you can, you know, change your perspective. Second thing is, and I think it's very important, to start respecting, and it goes also with the perspective, respecting that people don't have the same point of view. And it's okay. You can be very different and don't have the same point of view and be completely okay with it, and just let others live their life like they want, and you don't have to have an opinion on their life. That is really important. And the third one, which is connected to yoga, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself because you're born in this body, and it's only you in this body. There is a lot of people that you love all around, and we care about them a lot, but we very often forget ourselves. And once I read something on the book that said, if I was asking you how many people do you love and to make a list, at one point would you put yourself? Which is very important, because if you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of the other people?
Wow. You know, on the plane they say, put your mask first and then help others.
Yes, exactly.
So
it's
important.
The same. It's the
so
same.
important. So perspective, be respectful, respect everything, other person's opinion and their point of view, right?
Yes.
And take care of yourself. Very important. Thank you so much for your time, Megane.
Shukriya.
Thank you. Shukriya. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.